My eyes eventually fluttered open, adjusting to the sight around me. I felt familiar silks underneath me, letting me know that I was in my bed. I slowly sat up, stretching from the tiredness that still lingered. I felt a very soft pain on my neck and shoulders, and I could feel my swollen lips pulse gently and healing. However, when I looked down at my body, I saw that my shirt had been pulled back up and rebuttoned as if nothing had happened between me and Sam. I was just missing my ribbon. Before I turned to get out of bed, though, I spotted my ribbon on the pillow beside the one I slept on. It was tied with a nice bow with a small note attached to it. I gently slipped the note from the tie and opened it to read it.
Sorry, I went a little too far.
I stared at the note, letting a small smile graze my lips. He went too far? I enjoyed it, despite the first-time circumstance. It was cute, though, to imagine him thanking me for something we both did and enjoyed. I brought the note to my chest, letting the memories of our meeting flood my mind. I indulged myself too, Sam. I looked at the time out of curiosity. The large white numbers on my phone showed 5:31 p.m. Yikes. 4 hours being knocked out, and I still feel tired. It was Sunday, so I was allowed to sleep longer if I wanted to. The remainder of the night passed by, surprisingly uneventful. The boys continued to train with each other, but were kind enough to stop and make my dinner. I was glad for that. Unsurprisingly, the food was perfect, but it felt a little empty without the boys to eat with me. They most likely had already eaten, but still, I felt lonely. I couldn't let it bother me. I ate and went back to my room to study and sleep. Surprisingly, I felt good going to bed that night. I felt like I could have a peaceful sleep after the previous rough nights I had had. It felt good. I drifted to sleep and awoke almost flawlessly the next morning. No grogginess, no aches, perfectly energized and bright-eyed. Man, how long has it been since I got that much good sleep? I looked to my alarm clock. I woke up 10 minutes before my alarm. Well, hey, must be my lucky day today. Karma owed me some luck. After all I had gone through in merely a handful of days, I deserved to get some good luck. Ecstatic for the day ahead, I turned off my alarms before they could ring and got dressed. However, my phone started to quickly buzz from an incoming text. Huh? Who's texting me this early?
Yo, Anderson! You're carpooling with us from now on. We're not letting you waste your money on a bus. Get ready and be at your gate at 7 stat.
I smiled. My friends were the best. I couldn't drive yet, and I didn't have a car, so it was awesome that my friends would let me carpool. I checked the time, 6:30. Perfect, I can eat some breakfast before they come. I packed my bag and carried it downstairs towards the kitchen. As I entered the dining room, I saw a plate with eggs, toast, and bacon sitting on the table. A fresh steaming cup of coffee sat next to the plate with the sugar and creamer on the side. I walked to the table and couldn't believe what I was seeing. Who made this? As I spoke aloud, a small red note caught my attention. Have a good day, yours. My heart skipped a beat as I finished. I could tell it was from one of the boys. Maybe it was from him? I smiled before putting the note in my bag and eating up. The food was so delicious. I devoured every amazing bite. I looked to the time again. Time to go. I quickly rushed to the doors, checking myself in the passing mirror. I wasn't wanting to impress anyone, but I still needed to look decent. Before I could reach the handle of the door, however, someone took my hand. Huh? I turned to see Sam, who was holding my hand back with a stern look on his face.
My name.
Your name?
My true name isn't Sam. I want you to know my real name if something happens.
His true name? What did he mean? Why was he telling me this now? Sam gently pulled me to him and leaned closer to whisper in my ear.
My name is Almaris.
Almaris, I love that name. As he said his name, I could feel it lock in my memory. Something in my head would make sure I would never forget it. Sam pulled away and stared at me, despite still carrying worry in his eyes.
If you're in any danger, any time, doesn't matter when, call my name. I promise that I'll come and help you.
I stared up at Sam, unable to say anything. I could only nod in response. Sam nodded back before releasing my hand and heading into the dining room. Something told me that name would be used eventually. And right on cue, Naomi drove up to the gates with Suzu waving me down. I rushed out the door and we headed to school, talking about the homework and the coming day. First incident today. So I walked towards Suzu and Naomi, who were both waiting for me on the opposite side of the hall. Something hooked my ankle and made me fall forward. I keep forgetting about this part. Whoa! Ow!
Hey, are you okay?
Who did that?
Some bitch. What do you expect? The three of us looked back to see Lisette and her gaggle of girls. Lisette had a look of complete innocence, while the girls around her giggled like no tomorrow.
Why, you little...
Suzu, don't!
I felt a giant fire of anger burn in my stomach as I stared at Lisette. Today was not the only time this had happened to me. However, it was now clear who was behind these incidents. Even if she was innocent and one of her goons did it, it was now obvious that Lisette was the mastermind just from the look on her face. She was no friend, nor would she ever be. I had to do something. This is what I would have done. I'm gonna get her. I'd had enough. I felt adrenaline rush through my body as I pounced off the ground and rushed at Lisette. I was not going to be the only one with scrapes this time. I tackled Lisette to the ground, swiping and slapping her innocent face. She screamed in fright before trying to push me off and block my attacks.
Holy shit! Anderson! Stop it!
I wasn't listening anymore. I let my carnal need to get revenge take over as I began to pull at Lisette's hair to get a better aim at her face with my free hand. I'd had enough of the bullying, the words, the insults. All of that was going to burn in the past as I scraped my nails and hand across Lisette's face over and over. My rebellion would be marked on her face for all to see. Lisette pushed me off and scrambled to her feet, both panicked and angry at the same time. Her emotion was nowhere close to the anger I was feeling.
Are you crazy? What the hell?
I stood up very slowly, glaring daggers into Lisette's soul through her eyes. I must have had some sort of monster behind me, or maybe I looked like a monster myself, but the gaggle of girls, Lisette, and even my friends had a look of pure terror on their faces. I have had enough of you, Lisette! You obviously won't stop unless I fight back. Well, guess what? You're gonna get it! I charged at Lisette a second time, shoving her hard against the lockers. She let out a yelp of pain as she smacked the back of her head against the metal behind her before glaring and shoving me back. As I stumbled back, Lisette raised her hands, ready to fight.
Then come on, Anderson. Show me what you've got. I bet it's not much.
I felt myself snarl in anger before raising my own fists, remembering my taekwondo. I quickly snapped onto one leg and raised a leg to get a swift kick at her head, but she blocked with her arm and stepped towards me to jab at me. Yeah. She had training, not surprising. I didn't care at that moment. I bent back away from the incoming jab, reestablishing my balance as I placed both feet on the floor. Lisette threw jab upon jab at me, forcing me to block my torso and face with my arms and hands. Hit for hit, Lisette and I exchanged and defended blows at each other. It was indeed more than just a cat fight. This was a vengeful duel. In my mind, all I saw was Lisette. All I wanted was to make her stop, and if that meant beating her down, then it had to be done. We eventually gained a small crowd of people, all silent but observing the fight. My anger intensified, and my hits became harder with each second that passed between us. I couldn't let her win. I wouldn't let her win. None of Lisette's girls dared step in, apparently afraid to after seeing our skills and our individual fighting styles. Suzu was held back by Naomi's arm, despite both of them wanting to help me. They didn't wait long for it to end, though. Suddenly, Lisette was pulled away from me, and I was pushed to the opposite lockers by a strong force. Lisette hit the lockers as well on the opposite end of the hallway, letting out a girly grunt of pain. I looked up to see my art teacher, Mrs. Gordon, holding me against the lockers with a look of surprise and serious concern on her face. I love that art teacher's design, though. She looks awesome.
Miss Anderson, what are you doing?
I looked to see Lisette being held back by Miss Phillips, starting to cry innocently. I knew what was going to come out of her mouth, so I tried to push Miss Gordon off to confront her. Miss Gordon, however, kept an arm wrapped around me, keeping me back. No! Don't you dare start crying, Lisette! You started this!
Miss Anderson, get a hold of yourself!
What is wrong with you? What did I ever do to you? I couldn't stop the angry tears running down my face as I shouted across the hallway. Lisette and Miss Phillips stared in shock at my screams as Miss Gordon tightened her hold on me. I am so sick of it! Leave me alone! Eventually, I lost my energy and began to weigh down on Miss Gordon's arms, letting my sadness take over and quench my anger with tears and swelling pain. I could feel Miss Gordon hugging me to her to keep me upright as Lisette sniffled and confided with Miss Phillips.
I didn't do anything to her. She just attacked me all of a sudden.
That's a lie, Lisette. You tripped her on purpose. You've always been a snobby prick to us.
Never! I gave my condolences about her grandfather's death. I try to keep everyone calm. Is that so wrong?
You didn't even sound sincere. We know you were only pretending to be nice to spite us.
Enough. Miss White, follow me to the dean's office.
Lisette followed, wiping her eyes and feigned innocent. She knew how to play up. I remained still in Is it Miss or Mrs.? Make up your mind, game. Is she married or not? Unable to bring myself to fight to get at Lisette again. I had done my damage. The gaggle of Lisette wannabes would make sure I became infamous around the school. I didn't care. I made my statement on Lisette's face and body, and I wasn't afraid to do it again. Miss Gordon, however, wasn't done with me. See, there you go.
Come with me, sweetie.
I nodded and followed. My friends frowned as they watched me leave, but they headed to class without me. Miss Gordon led me to an empty classroom, which she had claimed as hers. It looked like all the other classrooms, but art posters lined the walls. Many students loved the room, but hated one thing, the mirror in the very back of the room. It was the one thing Miss Gordon loved to use against her students. With it, she was able to see who was using their phones and who was actually studying. Miss Gordon led me to the back of the room and sat me down in front of it.
What do you see?
Huh?
Tell me what you see.
I looked in the mirror and saw myself. My clothes were a little ruffled from the fight, but beyond that, I just saw me. Nothing about me seemed different than normal. I see myself.
All right. What else?
What else? I don't understand.
Do you know what I see? I see a brilliant woman who has been working her butt off to try and find herself. She just has a little bit of adversity in her way.
What does this have to do with what happened with Lisette?
Listen, don't think about Lisette right now. She's just another student who doesn't know what you're going through.
I stared at myself in the mirror, unable to tear my eyes away. She was right, but I still lingered on what happened with Lisette. I know Miss Gordon was only trying to help, but I couldn't fight the thoughts in my head. Miss Gordon gently rubbed my shoulders, snapping me from my thoughts. I looked up to see her smile down at me through the mirror.
You know, those were some pretty interesting moves. Taekwondo?
Yeah.
You'll have to show me one day.
This makes you a great teacher. I laughed as she hugged me gently.
Look, don't let Lisette get to you, okay? You have your own battles to face, and you can face them just fine. Instead of fighting Lisette, focus on your goals.
I looked up at her and nodded slightly. It was cliché to hear, but she was telling the truth. I needed to focus on myself first. She gave me a small packet of tissues and told me that she would handle Lisette. The fear about my family learning of this had quickly appeared had vanished when she promised to keep me out of it as much as she could.
Everything will be fine now. You're a good student, so I'll let you off with a severe warning. Just don't get into any more fights, okay? Now, head to class.
I nodded before heading to class. Surprisingly, the rest of the day went off without another incident. I went to my classes, had lunch, and was anxious to get home. As the bell rang for school to end, I felt my phone vibrate in my pocket. Huh? A text? From Dad? I'll be picking you up today. Make sure you're ready to go when I get there. That's kind of a surprise. I quickly headed back to my locker and got my things before waiting for Naomi and Suzu.
Hey, are you ready to go?
Actually, my dad's picking me up.
Really? Okay, I guess that kind of makes sense.
We'll drive home together next time. Tell your dad that we've got you covered from now on.
Yeah, alright. Even while I laughed, something didn't seem right. My dad texted me to say this. Why was he going to pick me up? Had I done something wrong? I didn't know. I waved goodbye to Naomi and Suzu before heading off to the usual spot where my dad picks me up. I took the time to listen to my music while I waited. I need to go to another Rise of the Phoenix concert. Eventually, I'd played the entire album with no one showing up. Hey, Dad's never late, especially not this late. I quickly dialed my dad's number, but as soon as I pressed call, it disconnected and read a signal disconnection error message. What the? No signal. How do I not have a signal? I double-checked my phone and saw all 5 bars for the signal. He must be in a dead zone. Before I could finish, a group of hands grabbed my hands, feet, and covered my mouth. I screamed into the hand over my mouth, struggling to pull away from the hands grabbing at my limbs. It felt disgusting and scary, feeling their hands on me. I needed it to stop.
Hey! Don't dirty up Malix's prey!
The voice, which sent a shiver down my spine, whispered into my ear.
You're coming with me, Miss Anderson.
I couldn't fathom what was happening, but before I knew it, I was blindfolded and my limbs were quickly tied up. I felt myself being carried somewhere and was shoved into something that echoed the interior of a bus or van. The doors closed and off I was taken, unsure of where I was going or why. All I knew was that I was in trouble. All I saw was darkness. I felt numb as I was taken to a place I didn't know of. I couldn't even move my lips to scream. Sounds zipped past my ears, first off the interior of a car, then the outside, then an echoey space with whispers and cackles of people vibrating through it. However, the wrap around my eyes was eventually removed from my face, and my bonds were cut. It took a while for my eyes to adjust, but I found myself in a warehouse, surrounded by devils, including Malix, who was smirking at me. You know, the dumb thing is that they had you tied up, but then they cut them. Like, what was the point of that?
Nicely done! I'm sure those little shits will come running to find you when they realize you didn't return to your precious little mansion. They'll search everywhere for you.
Malix walked over and set the barrel of his gun against the skin between my eyes.
It'll be so funny when they find your dead body instead.
I could see Malix pull the trigger before bracing myself.
What the fuck?
I opened my eyes again to see Malix jamming his finger against the trigger, trying to shoot me to no avail.
Well, she either has the barrier spell on her, or you're losing your power.
Shut up! I'm not losing shit! This little brat must have that spell on her!
I felt a wave of relief rush through my body. The other devils laughed at Malix, which made him angrier.
I said, shut up!
Malix suddenly moved his gun towards a nearby devil and pulled the trigger. I stared wide-eyed as the bullet from Malix's gun rammed itself into the neck of the devil boy. The wound spouted fire and blood, causing the devil to scream and flail in extreme pain before falling limp to the ground. As the body hit the floor, it began to almost deform and melt. Blood and black ash poured out of the wound in every opening that body had, causing the smell of death to quickly fill the room. I felt like gagging as the body eventually stopped moving. The body became like a deflated balloon, showing me the true nature of Malix's gun. It was now just a pile of blood and skin. The bullet had burnt up the muscle, bones, and any structure the body had to give it its form. That could have been me. That could have been me!
Anyone else wanna laugh at me? Huh?
The devils around us shut their mouths, obeying the warning of the obvious master of the space. Malix growled before glaring at me.
As I was saying, it must be some holy magic or some shit like that.
The girl who had kidnapped me stepped up beside Malix, looking into me. Malix wrapped a strong arm around her waist and pulled her tight against his side before burying his face against her neck. Eris didn't react, but continued to stare at me as Malix ravaged her shoulder and neck in violent kisses. Eventually, Malix pulled away, licking his lips before looking to Eris's face.
Be a dear and get rid of her barrier. Now.
Without another word, Eris walked around me out of my line of sight. As I turned my head to try and follow her, Malix raised his gun to my face once again, forcing me to stop moving.
I may not be able to shoot you yet, brat. But there are other ways I can beat the living shit out of you.
Almaris! All of a sudden, a bright purple light engulfed the room, causing the devils around me to cover themselves.
What the?
Gusts of wind rushed past me, almost forcing me back. I covered my face with my arms, bracing myself and standing my ground. I tried to peek through my arms to see what was going on, but the light continued to shine brightly. As the gusts slowly started to die, the light began to fade, revealing a very pissed-off Sam. Sam!
Don't worry. I got you.
At that moment, Sam didn't even give Malix a chance to breathe. As I blinked, I saw Sam's fist ram itself into Malix's cheek, sending the devil flying back against the wall of the warehouse we were in.
You motherfucker!
Sam was relentless. He quickly followed Malix to the wall and began slamming his fists into Malix's body. An imprint of Malix's body began to form into the wall as Malix was beaten in. The remaining devils stared, trying to figure out what to do, help Malix or watch in silence. Eris, however, walked up beside me and crossed her arms as she watched with an amused smirk on her face.
Get off!
With a blast of heat, Sam was forced back from Malix. Sam slid on the balls of his feet, covering his face from the burst of heat that forced him back. Malix, on the other hand, was practically on fire. His menacing eyes glared deadly daggers at Sam as Malix gripped his gun.
You're dead, Incubus!
Malix pried himself from the wall and began to fire hot bullets at Sam. However, none of the shots made it to Sam's body. In the blink of an eye, Sam had disappeared from his spot and reappeared at Malix's side, ready to lay a heavy punch to Malix's head.
Too slow!
Malix, though, wasn't as slow as Sam thought. Malix quickly turned to shoot Sam, who barely had the time to dodge it. It quickly turned into a fight of Sam using his speed to dodge and try to hit Malix, and Malix using his gun and devil-like skills to try and lock onto Sam's appearing form. It was almost too fast to follow. However, I could tell something inside Sam had changed. He wasn't holding anything back in this fight. It was as if something incredibly demonic had taken a hold of him and forced each punch he threw and each step he made. Was this the extent of demon power? I didn't have a chance to answer myself. As Sam tried to dodge Malix, Sam tripped and landed on one knee with a loud thump.
Gotcha, bitch!
I gasped in horror. Sam had no chance to dodge or run. I could only stare petrified as Malix charged forward and jammed the barrel of his gun into Sam's mouth.
Eat hellfire, Incubus!
Then, at that moment, something in the air changed. The air instantly went from frantic to still in energy. What could have been described in tone as the color red quickly turned into a deadly mix of purple and green as everything began to blend together all at once. My eyes never strayed from Sam's face, however, even as it changed. His eyes began to glow a bright golden color as Sam began to bite down on the gun in his mouth. As the trigger was pulled, the gun was snapped in two between Sam's teeth. Small fragments of the gun flew everywhere while the look on Malix's face went from confused to petrified. You bit his fucking gun in half! What the fuck? Before Malix could utter a single response, Sam let out a giant animalistic roar, sending waves of fear down my spine, and tackled Malix to the ground. I stared as Sam began to slam punches into Malix's face, one right after another. Sam's skin began to morph and shift with each punch, changing from human to something else. Before I was allowed to see Sam's new form, however, a pair of hands quickly covered my eyes. Instinctively, I reached up and gripped them, trying to pull them off. A voice stopped me.
It's me. Don't look.
I listened carefully and let the last two words linger in my mind. Don't look. Why? What was being hidden from me? I wanted to know, but something told me to obey Damien's command. I could still hear Sam screaming and grunting with each punch he rammed into Malix's face, with the occasional cracking of bone or blood splatter echoing in the air. Maybe it was better that I wasn't able to see.
That's enough, Sam!
Almost instantly after James's command, the sound stopped. The only thing anyone could hear then was Sam's pants and grunts for air.
Malix is dead, and you've lost your glamour spell.
Shut up.
Glamour spell? What did he mean? Why did Sam sound so different? Why was this being hidden from me?
It's a spell that makes us look human.
I froze. Look human? They didn't look like humans after all? What did they look like?
Like demons.
As if Matthew knew what Damien was talking about, Matthew spoke up, followed by the sound of a cork popping out of a bottle.
Well, not for much longer. Here. Let's go. You gotta regain your glamour spell and you're all out of energy. Come on.
Fine. Whatever.
I could hear the small clinking of glass being passed before hearing Sam guzzle down a liquid of some sort. The feel of the air around me gently began to warm back up, insinuating that everything had been returned to normal. Finally, Damien moved his hands from my eyes, allowing me to see around me once again. The devils, including Eris, had fled. On top of Malix's body was a dirty sheet that was quickly turning red from blood. I could see that Malix's face was completely caved in, making a dip in the blanket. The boys, however, had gathered around me, all of them, including Sam, looking like nothing had happened. What just... I tried to speak, but everything zipped around in my head at the whole event, and I felt like speaking wasn't possible.
Let's just get you home, miss. There's nothing more to see here.
I could only nod. What had happened boggled my mind to the point of disbelief. I was second-guessing everything, lost in the sea of what and how and when. As we walked out of the warehouse, I looked to Sam for some form of sign that I wasn't dreaming. Sam kept his eyes down and away from me.